Hello, hello. While folks come in, don't want anybody to feel left out or left in or left around or something. Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Brooklyn Rails Wednesday afternoon reading series, also known for fundraising purposes as the Radical Poetry Reading Series. I just got fired, sorry. We've got a terrific reading for you today. This reading was put together by Tenaya Nasser-Frederick, and he's invited Norma Cole, Kamelya Youssef, Mohammed Zenya, and Vlad Nehechevonski to read. Tenaya will read first, and I'll be introducing each of the readers as they come. There will be bio information posted for each reader in the chat as well, and links to their various works and projects that they're involved with. So keep an eye on that as we go through. The reading is being recorded and will be posted on the Rails website as well as on its YouTube page. So it'll be out there to circulate a few days from now, most likely. This is the 80-something reading, weekly reading since this whole endeavor began, and we're going to be continuing through the summer. So please feel free to continue to join us. We're even going to do these in July and August, no matter how melted our brains are. And there'll be other information on the Rail and its activities and what it stands for posted in the chat as well. My name's Anselm Berrigan. I'm the poetry editor for the Rail, as well as the host or co-host of this reading series. And I'm very glad that you're all here. Tenaya Nasser-Frederick. Oh, this is the 89th reading. I find the basic numbers to be highly amusing sometimes. Tenaya, thank you so much for putting this reading together. Tenaya is the author of 2 chapbooks, Penumbra Highway from Gas Meter in 2018 and Lavender Cats, which was published in 2020 by 1080 Press, which we'll be hearing more about, and the aborted manuscript In the Realm of the Senses too, a mystery which I hope to never or maybe possibly solve at some point. His poems have appeared in the Rail and also in Castle Greyskull, if you can find an issue, and Ebb magazine. Please welcome Tenaya Nasser-Frederick to the Wednesday series.
Thank you, Anselm, and thank you, Nick and Carolyn and Fong and Brooklyn Rail. I'm so grateful and thrilled to be here, and thank you, Mo and Kamelya and Vlad and Norma for accepting my invitation to do this reading. I just want to say something really quick about why I sort of, decisions, like curatorial decisions, just a quick thing about each reader. Vlad and I go way back. We've been each other's interlocutors of each other for like 10 years now. And beyond just us developing a shared poetic sensibility, he's also a really tremendous promoter and publisher of unpublished poets through his press 1080. And and I think all the poets I asked to read are people who I admire, and I read their poetry and respect their poetry a lot, but also really admire the way in which they live their poetics. Kamelya is someone who I'm struck by for her power as a reader and as a poet, also for her work of actively supporting poets between Dearborn and New York. I first encountered Kamelya at a reading she threw in Queens, and at the end of it with some friends, and at the end of it, she encouraged the whole audience, like, any of you can do this. Anyone can put on a reading like this. And that's something I've heard before, and that's something that is a sort of radical sentiment that I think is important. And also, Kamelya is one of the few poets I know in New York who organizes poets around solidarity for Palestine, which is something that doesn't happen enough. And I think everyone should be aware of her and follow her lead. And Mo Zenia is a poet who also organizes poetic language around Palestine and in their book Tel Aviv, in a way that perhaps has more to do with the silences than with what's said. And I met Mo one night, and it was a long night. We spent a long time talking to Mo. We covered everything at Maddie Braun's apartment, and we covered everything from Law and Order SVU to protest movements being compromised by the feds. We did a whole full circle on the cops over like 6 hours, and I learned a lot. So I'm really thrilled to have Mo with us. And Norma Cole is one of my favorite poets. I've always loved her work. Her book Fate News 2020 is triple platinum in my mind, and her French translations and essays have opened up a whole world of 360-degree thresholds for me. And I'm proud to be from the same city in which she lives, San Francisco, and I'm very grateful to be with her here now. Okay, so I'm gonna read just 4 poems. I'm gonna read one slow, and I'm gonna read 2 fast, and then I'm gonna read one slow again. This one's called Light Shines Through the Window of Quality Body. Replace coffee with meditation for a few mornings, finish things, watch bread bake, a severed head in a black plastic bag. Namelessly, here, I'll share my location at Voices Fan Fictions. At all times, I love you. It's okay you do. Using pancreatic cancer lyrically becomes mute on the horizon. Factory plumes over the crest, mistaken for cypress trees. Without range, headstones smile and wave, a varying of politics too, one of body. Light shines through the window of quality body. A rising disintegration didn't start now or in any event. All I can now do is let that go to make love more true. Mike in the polyurethane paint, applied after scraping down the barnacles. Grace beyond permission veiling him. This next poem is called Face Surrealism. Agone, I wasn't calling for that, sure. Mind idiocratic pestilence. This was mentioned by the wave, rode more of a rod, a dumbrate, darkened variation by abstruse calculation. Dunk it with an incomplete sunflower. Attention is like skin. Snake skin, lion skins, flesh, meat at mountain peak. Don't sweat the Greek of elegance. Don't burn it all down or deflect with casual surrealism. This next poem is for an artist who I had the pleasure of, we were co-workers for about 3 weeks, and we got along pretty well. And the last day I worked with him, he gave me he showed me his artwork, and it really struck me. So I wrote this poem, which is kind of about it. Frank Dory poem. Flowers with nails in them, candles mounted to Kodaks, infected or official senses, only copy memory cut-ups, pickups with Frank Dory faces, like window liquor, more so Inland Empire stencils for Bob Thompson. Enroll in math, buy Donnie Litter, get back in. Weird syrups, the Joan Links warehouse, Jane, glad when the drag's dead before the hole. Do you, so seminal, the slowest not in service train I've seen. I know these buildings are chombing the city, but the oblique angles, how they rise, I like. Is that the pick or the process? More muster. We were really keeping up with shit. It's never too late to plan ahead. Barcalera is much forkanized from unknown legend type sunglasses. Having a mayonnaise bagel with you. Labor and monopoly capital Sweezy intro. Temoigne, Gabor. M prime, M prime prime, M prime prime equals interest-bearing capital, Walter Bagehot, Lombard Street. Three things I bring to economics: my written arts degree, my Palestinian heritage, Crete well, 1¼ inch course, 2-inch same, 50 plus my hours, Sunday 12 hours, to care and deface simultaneously as in a single act. And I'm gonna read just one more poem. And it's been so short and sweet. This poem is a, I encountered a prompt once when I was younger to write a, what do you call it, like an amulet. And I never knew how to do that, but I wrote this one, and it sort of has come to function as an amulet for me. And it's something I hope to offer to the other readers and listeners as an amulet. It started out as an exercise where I was trying to use the word alimony as a catch-all for populist notions of welfare and dreams of welfare and reparations and liberation and even a one-state solution. So yeah, and then when I looked up the word alimony after writing the poem, I found out that the Greek etymology, it comes from the word for nutrients. It means nutrients. So that was cool. That's what I wanted it to mean. Breaking up is hard to do. There being no mother and no further, there being no husband and no wife, just alimony surpassing the defunct relation. Every person, any age, is de jure divorcee with provision, although divorce not existing. Instead, as natural law, it could be vaguely held, meaning anyone could kind of draw a circle with their pointer in the air, expressing that alimony meant a kind of torque. For instance, it meant to some not a desert, and its ever connoting divorce became very esoteric knowledge. For most, the word meant not a desert. One might remember the Christian concept whereby divine tragedy is overcoming separation, but no one could remember salvation there too. It had also faded from usage. So as the path of salvation points to an unapprehended arrival, the eye of intelligent self had to be admitted to the folds which were to dislocate it. This yearning had been implicit in distinction. And rather than announcing spiritual crisis, this theological shift locates the transubstantiation of the word into the letter and the ensconcement of that letter I into the word salvation, thereby salivation, the I come gastronomical formulation. This is how alimony came to mean not a desert. None were deserving and yet all salivated. None were deserving per se, but all received alimony, and participation in it conveniently itself now stood as the mark of able being. Alimony loosely meant electricity, but very importantly, it did not mean teaming or business. It would be a mistake to read this as the converse of desert. The converse of desert did not necessarily have any more teaming in it than the driest desert, but rather, sitting idle in the converse of desert was nowhere near as dangerous as sitting idle too long without water in a dry desert. It was a matter of anxiety over resources. This anxiety gradually organized into there being no avenues by which to abuse alimony. Alimony now divorced from any particular obligation or recipient. One was herself alimony, and even when anything died, it still couldn't be not moving, as it went through the things that digested it, and so the dead too needed alimony. But as they continued to be moving, they were not really dead then, and living and dying didn't really factor into this kind of space where, without there being no jurisprudence, being was movement itself, and movement was alimony. The word love could now fall out of usage and was compensated in full by alimony. Of course, this couldn't translate, and it would be more appropriate to write, alimony is alimony in full by alimony. Further reformulate this as alimony, 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 ma. That is how you are to be the love you can't afford. The thing about people which needs to be said is they were not there, but only here, there. They were a fly between projector and wall and not of the film. That is them being there, just as these words are only there as kind of as ghosts of a kind of expression, a kind of auguring, a kind of love, a would-be tyrant that the movements in space, the antibodies had handcuffed, roped down, and used once to plumb the depths of their Eden, slashed and gutted. In their deepest fort-like shrines, suspended above subterranean rivers, a vision remained, chained in all limbs, coming from his autocratic mind as though they were the spokes of coiled chains, of his sputtering, strange, sputtering words. And from this vision, the antibodies ordered the alimony that was due and read aloud there.
Thank you, Tenaya. It's always great when a word turns out to mean what you want it to mean. Our second reader is going to be Vlad Nehechevonski, who's a poet and the publisher of 1080 Books. That makes him an editor. I think that makes him a printer also. 1080 Books. Vlad didn't send a bio, so I gotta wing this shit. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's great. Actually, 1080 Books just started, I guess, in the last couple years, and he's doing it out of Kingston, New York, and there are these. I have a couple here. This is the most. I think this is one of the more recent ones. Lathe by Madeline Braun. They're these really beautiful letterpress books. This is 36 Dreams by Terrence Arjun, who I think is in the house. And you should, they're terrific reads, and they're also terrific objects to hold and carry around. And they sort of point both to the future with these younger writers while also being steeped in the present, and then coming out of this tradition of, hey, if you can't get your work circulated through the various submittables and large presses and powers that be, then you do it yourself, and you go and you find the work that you believe in, and you circulate it, and you make it look as great as possible and get it out there. And I really admire this work in these books, and I'm really psyched to hear Vlad read. Please welcome him to the project. To the rail. Sorry, I have COVID. It's messed with me.
Thank you so much, Ansem. Thank you, Tenaya, and thank you, the Brook of Rail. And I'm so excited to read with everyone. I'm going to read just one longer poem. And if at any point it gets a little too long, just Tenaya wave me down. Calling it bad behavior is more a waste than putting out or throwing down. Where our genes reflect living in the East too long, the mud turns cakes of beautiful mahogany at the sleeves. Sleep in old homes I can only tell myself could exist. Behavior ruins fluent intangibility of omniscient narrator, drunk and nose to the dial at the center of words, that when the dial spins carves a deep circle in the fool mating. The reversal of this bungalow's Big Bang rewatched, again, until we are all fucking, to exist in Dracula's kissing the wind. A broken light bulb, a finch within pecks its way out. Our rooms are washed away, and to get published in another therapy magazine is a great joy here in New York, where the finch pecks its way out of the shattered glass of a broken light bulb in a glass room of hot ripples. I think if I could forget about it being spring, I might re-enter this room to drop a bomb, tantalizing a demon or a string of comments on organs that resemble each other's fleshiness, like the Hudson at sunset somewhere between Terrytown and Edinburgh. The reason I started walking was to drown in the goodbyeness of our parts. Equal parts dark aspect and equal parts infected crumbling, not to just ruin, but blow corrosiveness infected zaps, laser beams that fill up every direction in sight, that ballooning granary. If I were cute and had an inch of history, would it be okay to open this chute? Grain, grain, grain. Don't go away. Come again and sit on the bed. Come again today. Yay! And anyway, the word come applies to vanity. The word come applies to George Oppen, who, if I had more time, I would read more of, but because I have no time, I mostly read The Frustrated Network. The Frustrated Network works in two ways, by staying drunk and by denouncing the square. The four-sided square is no longer a plausible approach. Crack, breaks another bulb. My limbs are finally fluent, appendage strong and shy. That's my nose, which smells fire everywhere, and of it being an anyhow, that I would actually sit and try to write a poem about sleeping with my friends is beyond my capabilities as a writer and more in the wheelhouse of my dreams. It's soothing to think that those who can stand architecturally the spatial streets of my dreams are also wandering the lovely rooms of this house. And perhaps they are the grain in my silo, or are they the divers swimming with the light in a glass light bulb that is to be shattered? And are they to be confused for a bird, or are they confused for the light, or are they just confused? It wouldn't matter because friendship is a continuation on a flowing gulf of future times. It goes out west or down south and returns always looking to be repaired. We tried to cram Kierkegaard for dummies before we went out, blown, broken, brains, and I felt like a sheet of film being developed in the stop bath, or a cashew being twirled within the tongue before being broken. I can't imagine my body has thought about that much, though, other than when I found myself 10 days in hospital, the Dr. Frog of broken rivets burned down to seemingly little nubs of coal. I thought it would be beautiful to come and visit myself, and I thought it would be beautiful if I were sick. I misplaced my phone, and I get up to call John, who every time we speak makes me fall more in love with stories, like a mouse rising up out of the hairy mane of a lion in a flatland, telling me not to wish for the way things were, but can it ever change, even though a story whose worst approaches, but sitting together at this table, a bird between us, and dandelion salad and half-drunk bottle of mezcal. Friends, let's eat this bird in this one bird town, in this one room birdhouse, and fuck and love poetry and make books and succumb to a general optimism. No way. Plastic bag swinging Josh Safdie, Second Avenue. The world is sick, and Josh may be right about the apprehensions. How do we organize? But to moon over an island, and perhaps moon into rather talented liars. We live on an island, and talk about your resemblances, which have helped. Now you manufacture jokes and class struggle and mobilize, and hopefully it isn't over, but an avenue of sick retail space and a dreamscape that resembles a house that's filled with shards of glass from broken night, but not even 1 foot can get cut. And what of the terrible offset of morning, our room no longer private, to the cooing of the green carpet? And even the green carpet may be on strike. It never did like us all that much. Remember when it rolled up and went through a phase of irritant, or thought it was mint, or mentholated a drawn arm of elaborate smoke across the floor and then tore itself into pieces? What was supposed to be a sophisticated happiness was a set of instructions. Give me your pencil. These two lines make up the whooshing air. The whooshing air comes in through the open window. It's a tendency to whoosh through the garrets of reminiscence, a garret of hair. Perhaps I am not wearing a shirt, and I am in the garret, slipping off into the sound of the whooshing. The smallest sound is a closed system. The smallest exaggeration keeps the system closed. The smallest afternoon I have ever witnessed. The smallest moment experienced reading the approach of I to you, or the reproach that there's something California about it, but nothing of the West Coast, except that the system remains closed and shall remain closed, like a science fiction, impressed that it takes place in the year of this poem. There are so many friends to model oneself after, and to stop teetering at the edge of friendship, to dangle the carrot and not know what a carrot is but the absence of charm. I am bewildered by the total lack of charm. To crank on the green carpet and spread poems across the floor only to be whooshed, whoosh. The entertainment that goes into writing poems is a very real thing. I am unlike these poems, though they too have the ability to entertain. They make little entertaining phone calls where they can quote Mallarmé and tell great stories about their colleagues, the other poems that came before them. I wish I was like them now. Zoe asks for new clothes, my clothes, for immense oceans, just for wearing speckled elaborations on a theme, lend me your clothes, which may just end in a mouth making mouth noises resembling no, or a graph of blue paper that can just be called stanzas on a hillside, which is really a mouth mouthing, get your own damn clothes. Or maybe just fine, it's courtesy of the clothes lending agreement, appeasing bank vault, where in this scene, the vault is open. And it's like friendship, only the clothes are really bags of money. And we're all good with our friendships evaporating if there are bags of money involved, filling these memories like a person who is just lovely in their constitution, up and down, whoosh. For some reason, I can't think today. It's this drum head sending signals from my head, output jack, to the uncertain increasing sense of string music, my anxiety. It fills the details with what my life may look like after this month when the rent is due. The rent is due. Considering this, I think that the wings of a Friday afternoon, when one is employed, suffuses a despair that there's a grapevine afoot, no central meaning, only a speech waiting on the Monday side of things and a politics that lubricates it all. Reflections from I'm on schedule, from shimmer to the present spontaneous mania. Only one green carpet to bring about the smell of burning plastic. Perhaps I can lend Zoe my leather jacket. It's meant for dancing. We did some dancing in San Francisco in the Castro, under the marquee of the Castro Theater. It was New Year's. Tenaya came from Rod's, and little did we know I had a shaken up Coke bottle of MRSA infected fluid in my lung. Well, maybe Sarah knew, one that can squat in the charred nerves of any dwelling. And now, the ricocheting will to light a cigarette, crack another bulb, the money. I think presumably the existence of these friendships are medicinal, but not simple. There is only one simple eating of the lotus, which is like a ruled tiredness over experiencing a watercolor that is geared toward the direction of everything all at once. My body heat tells me two things now. One, passion can be amazing. It's good, but extinguishes like burning gasoline. There's no real fuel, only body shouting. But when it burns, burns good. Two, management. In pink and other popular pastels, we are guaranteed we will manage our body heat, placed in little ambiguous mausoleums for little robbers who, by robbing us, help us. It's hard not feeling well. Everyone becomes a friend. Everyone can talk, and so talking, we become friends. You get close because we are friends. We start to understand that then maybe friendship is like a book you don't think you want to read, but keep coming back to and reading. You would enjoy it more each time. You get close because we are friends. And maybe you'll now see I wrote this poem because rent is soon due. Thank you.
Thank you, Vlad. Our next reader will be Kamelya Youssef. Kamelya Youssef is a poet, teacher, and literary worker living between New York and Dearborn. She is the author of a book with a hole in it, published this year by Wendy's Subway. Her poems can be found at speakbird.com. She's a graduate of NYU and Wayne State University, respectively, edits poetry at Guernica, teaches poetry at City College, and co-facilitates Habibi Futurism, a generative workshop for the collective imaginary, with her friends. Please welcome Kamelya to the Brooklyn Rail.
Thank you everyone for having me. Thank you, Anselm, for that, reading my intro. Thank you, Vlad and Tenaya, for your beautiful poems. Thank you, Vlad, for ending your poem on rent, because that shit is so real, and the material conditions of what allows us to produce poems we need to be reminded of. And it's in there, whether we name it or not. I'm just going to go in because my time is limited. I'm excited for also for you to read Muhammad later. And Norma, oh my God, cool. Okay, so I'm going to go. I'm going to read you some excerpts from my book, A Book with a Hole in It. It is A Book with a Hole in It is an experiment. Everything is excerpted from, actually, I'm just going to read you how I describe it in the book. Cancel, oh no. My printer is trying to print while I'm working. I unplugged it. Okay. So A Book with a Hole in It is comprised of excerpts from my journals over a 4-month period. I went through a time where I couldn't write because I was so obsessed with, I was like housing unstable, I was relationship unstable, I was in an abusive relationship, shit was happening in my life and I needed to put a book together for a class. And what I ended up doing, I didn't write proper poems for quite a bit. And then I went into my journal and I was like, oh, my journal is where everything is, because that's kind of the raw material. And so everything appears in linear, appears in exact order as it appears in the journals. And that's my primary constraint, is that it all comes from the journals and then they're all in linear order. I'm starting in the middle. And it's fragments and they all appear kind of like this on the page. In the train station. Subway ads, every single one, white, 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 perfect text, aesthetic form, teeth, perfect, perfect, white, white, every ad, something about whiteness. This is an affront. We are not asked, we are told. I am red. It is whiteness that gives my body value in this economy. It is whiteness that wants me to keep this whiteness all to myself. It is whiteness that does not believe in giving and having nothing left. I am always standing next to a white version of me that everyone sees, and I am telling them, this is not me. I am Kamelya Omayma Abbas Mahmoud Salim Hussein Yusuf Nassour lineage, my father's. A rattling when someone sees me as white, American white. What constitutes whiteness in America? Before, they were farmers. My mother got married to escape war, but not poverty. There is a global whiteness to talk about here. If my family had stayed, a place where I would be whiter than the Filipino, Bengali, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Egyptian, Syrian domestic workers. I would not be as white as the rich Christian women of Lebanon, but I'd be as white as my diamond trading Muslim cousin. There is a context. It is causing. Mostly my own frustration with the invisibility. I have felt isolated, alone, targeted, fired by white people, shamed by them, pushed to assimilate culturally by them, talked down to by them. Maybe it's not me. Maybe it's just white culture. I've never lost myself in whiteness. I keep coming back. I watched the sunlight fall through the window. There was a steeple of light on my floor. I've known this dude for 4 days. I'm here to enjoy the joy. I chastise myself for my small vocabulary. You can control what the language holds, and sometimes language is empty. Keep the marbles in your pocket. Don't eat the candy all at once. I gave one to Marwa and one to Seher. I gave one to Basma and one to my date. This guy, he lets me go, go, go. If it's who he is or if it's something else. Here, my old traumas here to protect me. I am waiting for the other shoe to drop. I am also watching it dangle in the air like a constellation. He might be the one to help me bring children into this world. That would be funny, random, nice, lucky. There's a lot left to learn. I could use all my words to talk myself down from the ledge. This could be useful. Maybe Anaisnen is Anaisnen and Sontag is Sontag, and where are an Arab woman's journals for me to page through? Looking for gnosis here, but it still feels like epistemology. There is a titanium rod in my leg, holding me up, helping me walk. a love that drives invention. This is a result of human ingenuity and good guesses and love. What drives commodification of the invention is something else, something eviler. My grandfather thought up video chat in 1937 when the British brought a telephone to the village. He did not consider commodification. Another problem to solve with a book. And then I'm going to read some poems that are not from the book. I'll give you this one. This one's called There's a Hole in It. I like the metaphor. There's a hole in it. And there are erasures that are like just like presences in the text. So you'll see me stop. And there are also Atal Adnan style telegraphic stops that interrupt the text, but that's just a preview. That's a spoiler, but I'm just gonna go. There's a hole in it. I have been inside this language like a coffin. I am waiting to die to be heard. To my family, I am sorry, but you owe me the apology, and yes, you owe it to her. I open my box to tell you now, no telling when I go back inside. Now that I'm saying I can never unsay, but I do want the truth to bonfire burn on the White House lawn, light up Constitution like a match, to dress up in Hollywood furs and unfurl my tragedy on this country's red carpet, to blow the place up, to loot the seed bank, to hide in your language, a guerrilla girl, to steal back the words, to unbury the bodies, to sugar, to assassin, to macabre this Mecca, to fanfare, to cipher, to algebra this guitar, to language the silence, to silence this language, to disarm my tongue, to, and take back time. I'm sick of the word I haven't even written. I'm sick of this gun and its continental wag. I'm sick of the saving and the saying, and a culture at its center a lack, and my life at its center a lack, a hole to sink in, an echo to song. I am only one generation away from a story I cannot say. I try once again, maybe in all my languages this time. My stop was honor. Stop, killed. I learned about it. Stop in America. Stop, stop, stop. I will not tell you. Stop, who killed her. Stop, I know. Stop, she forgave him. It happened. Stop, in the silence. Stop, he suffered. Stop, and still. Stop, stop, stop. The story. Stop, asks all of us. Stop to tell it. What family? Stop is not silent. Stop on tragedy. What tragedy? Stop is missing. Stop its song. The killer. Stop was a child. Stop in a valley. Stop that preceded him. No one. Stop protected her. Stop from the force that stole her away. The guilty cannot repent in the silence of the complicit. This machine of power must stop, stop, stop. They force. Stop, order. Stop by absence. Stop of difference. In order. Stop to force. Stop harmony. I wonder how I'm doing on time. I have 1 or 2. Go ahead, Ansel.
You're good.
I'm good. Okay, this one is called, this one is a pair, and then I'll end there. I did not know how to love an animal once. There were 2 buckheads on the wall, 8-point. We had seen several disemboweled deer on the way. Even then, moving quickly, I noticed how the dead doe's coat met at a seam along her belly, like where 2 walls meet. Just south of his family's cabin are Ojibwe burial grounds. Did they exhume the bodies, I asked. He said, they're still inside the land. A wolf sprawled on concrete, its wounds hidden beneath its body, as if for dignity, as if in flight. We played Scrabble, but not in his grandfather's room. That would have been disrespectful. There were ghosts all around us. They may have been jinn, but there are 9 kinds of jinn, and I only know about the ones on that sesame earth where the day lasts 30-fold. There are good jinn and bad jinn and probably hybrid jinn, and I'm not one to judge. I got 19 points for the word moldy snobs. He did not challenge it. He called it compound. When he went unconscious in the woods, I wanted to call my mama. I called Sharon, the 911 lady, instead. The small Scrabble block dropped onto the wooden table, and it was a Z that would have brought him 10 points closer to the 50-point lead I got by playing the word Rainier on the first turn. The candle flame inside his chest blew out. I was suddenly alone and his body a chopped down trunk. His jaw hung open like a window. I was less afraid of being alone, more afraid of the ghosts in the circus of his sudden gape. How could I love a haunted thing without inviting the haunt into myself? Are the burial grounds right here? I asked. He said yes. I asked if I could touch the buckheads, and he said yes. And I touched the white parts and the brown parts, and they were soft, but not as soft as the dead doe looked on the side of the highway, over there where she was and still may be. A stand of aspens guarded the woods we did not go beyond. All countries are haunted, but not all deserve to be forgiven by their ghosts. I never learned how to speak to God or spirits, so I just stood inside the hemlock grove. If either of us dies here, I thought, they may make a monument for the dead. I called his name, and his silence abandoned us both. He came to, and we became the strangers we always have been. At night, I held his head to my chest as if for him to graze. Falling into the lake, the rain looked like stars. I did not know how to love an American. I did not know how to love an animal once, I wrote. What I meant, I did not know how to love an American. I didn't know if Americans deserved my love. I am also talking about myself. I stand among Americans masked at the market in New York, waiting for the boss man to hand me my burrata. All these assumptions you make in America, all these adjacencies to all the world, too much difference to stuff in your mouth and call it the same place, the same American taste. Even when you're alone, you're in mixed company. No mystery how it happened this way. More than mistakes were made. I did not know how to love an American, America, or my American self. I walk around 31st Avenue and suddenly I am afraid for my country people, for all these Americans in their masks and the masks beneath the masks. I never knew sympathy could slip out of me for Americans like this. Suddenly a concern for their numbers. Always we're the ones to give them numbers. We ask Americans to conceive of our dead. Our numbers grow and grow, but they never care to change. Even as we're swallowed by that concept holding meaning in its gaping mouth, that unnumber invented so that one day we could conceive of the tens or hundreds or thousands of people dying every day until the zero is added or reduced or the only thing left alive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamelya. And thank you for coming to read, as I understand, right after finishing teaching. I teach too, and reading right after teaching is probably weird and interesting and insane at the same time. Our next reader is Mohammed Zenya. Mohammed Zenya is a Sudanese and Eritrean poet working through the mediums of text, visual symbols, and sound to explore issues of language and the ever-changing meaning of words, identity and place, gender, sexuality, and love through a Black diasporic lens. He's the author of the chapbook Barroom Seance, published by Rockwell Press in 2013, and an Astrex is a mixtape published by Relay Sri Slit in 2018, along with video artist Jonathan Raphael. Mohammed's the co-founder and editor of Nada, the Dadaist magazine about nothing. and also the author of the book Tel Aviv, released on Porosity Press in April of 2020. Mohammed was born in Sofia, Bulgaria in 1988 and currently lives in Brooklyn, New York. Please welcome Mohammed to the rail.
Hello? Cool. I'm going to read just one long poem called The Rodrigo Rivera Sudanese Letters. Rodrigo Rivera, just for context, was a Chilean poet who wrote during the years of Pinochet. He ended up committing suicide sometime in the early 80s. Yeah, I think that kind of, I wrote this poem in the weeks preceding the January 6th riots. Okay, so here we go. The Rodrigo Rivera Sudanese Letters. 1. We dream the semblance song cycle. You and I write the same poem and wonder who we are. Rodrigo Rivera, Paul Dunbar, and I. My mouth on the mouth of a dead dog in war-torn posture. Lips bleed the couplet northwest. Simiclera, sanctuary birds beak, break through, and open mouth sewer tongue wings, monotonous letters. Dead winter New York, a dream Harlem in the 20s. Santiago in the 70s and early 80s, and here I am, 2020. Being already, Pinochet looms, an automatic teenage boy in Ohio stashing arms for a race war. I see Rodrigo Rivera, and he looks just like me. 5 harbingers of coups with heartland raid riots for middle-aged Nazis, and for a minute, everybody believes the White House is on fire. Me and Paul Dunbar embark upon the noble task of drinking ourselves to death rather than die at the hands of a lobotomized lynch mob or poetry being ignored. I dream of America's white poetry readers of Amanda Gorman, sheepish grins and lilacs over the drunk fluoride university blessing, and they all look past me and say, I'm the parents of Rodrigo Rivera, Paul Dunbar, the author of this poem, and I am ashamed. I'd rather do anything than read them. I'd rather suck Willie Collins' dick at every small college reading in North America. In fact, I'd rather fuck the entire American Academy of Letters as a thank you. I wish Amanda Gorman was my daughter. I wish she was president, a Supreme Court judge, a Joe Biden and Claudia Lincoln's daughter. I wish she was like first daughter of poetry and we could trade all the shitty kids who write poetry for her. 2. And where does that leave us, poets of wanton idiocy and death camp exiled communists? Angelic crusaders are doomed to possibly long dead God, washed up fags without boyfriends to love and fuck, or poems to peddle and burn. A cross we bear, which we all the cross we bear, the singular silence on the lips of a didactic landlord as he dies. I'm writing all of this Rodrigo Rivera because Paul Dunbar is copying my style, writing my shadow, haunting my dreams, a well-rounded asshole. Rodrigo Rivera, I'm writing all of this because Paul Dunbar is canceled and Zelia Banks is forever next. I'm trying to hold it together like a skyscraper in the desert or a semicolon called love. Rodrigo Rivera, I am writing all of this because if there are no white men to read your poem, well, did you even write a poem? Rodrigo, I'm writing to you because Paul Dunbar has become Sean King's therapist chair. The 5th generation born to a frantic nightmare, planets colliding with the tawdry moon as you slowly realize your wife and all of us hate you. Like everything is being directed by the will of Tyler Perry and Michael Bay. Sonia Hurston and I stare the windows of the coffin and pay no mind because he is broke. 3. Rodrigo Rivera sniffs the empty hallways of NYU, searching for himself as torn ribs from Whole Foods. Like what are we minor poets but the reflection of the pedestal for Claudia Conway, whom turns the silver of the mirror of Rodrigo anyways. Manic retching in the military bars of Santiago, and near stalkerish letters of affection to the commonly literature majors of the less reputable Catholic colleges. Refugees from a virtuous Titanic, we like cicadas, but over the earth and from our blood. Rodrigo Rivera and I, descendants of better slavers. Meanwhile, Rodrigo Rivera is in Rochester and later becomes an activist only to magically hang himself from a leather nose in a town he's never known. 4. Is Rodrigo Lira the last poet of the West, its greatest and least sought after NFT? An invisible cadence danced by the half-starved, definitely drunk ghost of the Sea of Joys is who Toni Morrison would have become if not for the twin luck of good luck and bravery. Who is Rodrigo Lira? Lira but a footprint on the ashtray, the haphazard semblance of unpublished poets, unpublished Harlem poets who gathered like gadflies to a city on fire and desire to be French, who in their bitterness are heroes in unnamed ghetto, sad children from the hamlets of Georgia and West Virginia who recite their cantos and nursing notes in hospital beds, their manuscripts dried to bone on Staten Island, blown to the river like a trophy. Me, Rodrigo Lira, and Paul Dunbar go on a drinking binge, the midst of a coup. Vomiting comes on everyone and everything. Like we can't stop coming? First I come, then Rodrigo, and finally after some blushing and pleading from the crowd, Paul comes, but we're all the same person, so it's just me coming for the zaddy, the twink, and the poetic spirit. 6. What am I trying to say? Like honestly, this is why niggas hate poetry. Am I trying to say that literature is a disease and the lost writers of my imagined Harlem of the 20th carry on? That I am Rodrigo Lira, Paul Dunbar, but also like the Black poet in the 21st century is naively writing this poem where the earth literally burns the dead bird, like a dead bird in the mouth of the previous generation's dead birds? Am I actually not trying to say that at all, but rather that every writer must one day stare into the dreary world of the craft and realize it's full of fucking Nazis? And also, like speaking of writing, whatever happened to Caravan? Like where is he? To hazard a guess, I say he's crafting an army of wasps and illiterates from the rib of a cattle. Rib of a cattle, dancing over in the ruins of the Clinton Amazon joint venture, Port-au-Prince, the scores of hurricane refugees, and a nightclub for descendants of Wycliffe John and Roxanne Gay. Rodrigo Lira, I sincerely apologize for that. I am a messy bitch. 7. Rodrigo Lira, patron saint of drunk poets lost in the madness of political turmoil. Rodrigo Lira with a rue, illuminated by the bold ocean and the fluctuating spirits that clean the hallways of the Dow Industrial Average. Wait, Rodrigo, are you actually there? In the abandoned, burnt end, or sunk, dried up Coney Island, in the blaze that dreams touch fingerprints to Gracie Mansion, in the bloodhouse of Rikers in the early 90s, the Sahara before it was a desert searching for a star. 8. I am the Rodrigo Lira send these letters I don't give a fuck. Safia Liho and I write the same poems at different ends of the same fucked up typewriter called Exile Andor Sudan. We gaze to a sunflower sea or a body and files drawn through state-run TV, justice for Osman. I finally failed across our borders and genders, with less reflections and shadows than slightly embarrassed cousins. 9. I feel like Rodrigo Lira having a temper tantrum during a poetry workshop at Columbia, during an air raid siren at Tokyo 45, or better, maybe better to describe the feeling as being Spinoza tied to a rectangular cross. Me and Rodrigo are like James Baldwin's lungs in the 80s, a movie about a vacation to avant-garde starring a bunch of heroin-addicted Sudani poets, a forest without limbs or a death pact with a pyramid in a desert that's touched lips to the ocean. 10. Rodrigo Lira and I are bombing the skies, royal blue pollution, everything the subways can touch. Lawn ornaments, bicycles, straight fathers, dishonest cowboys, the Formica tabletops of 50s trap housing, the pet dog buried by the maple on Smith Street, the monuments to pilgrims at docks on Becky and Townsend, New England, fields that fallow to the worms, the napkins reserved for disgraced geography teachers and warlords. It's apocalypse summer to apocalypse fall to apocalypse winter, and like this is also boring. Like a PhD dissertation on the immateriality of history in the shadow and the empty shadow of the grave. I said, fuck it. And by the way, who was the first to come on Antarctica anyways? A continent of boom. 11. I feel like Rodrigo Lira watching the world end gutted down, Mr. hopelessly writing poetry in the Santiago of the late 70s and early 80s. Rodrigo lures a disheveled black man at subways of the West Village looking for $1 a poem. This Puerto Rican kid with big eyes singing the body electric and talisman and spatting from the floor of the Amherst Hospital psych ward. Madonna Mattel, action figure hand in hand. Rodrigo Lira is singing calypso in a Lewis Farrakhan disguise, and someone has fired a gun in the state capitol once again. 12. Rodrigo Lira is all of your tomorrows and wasted afternoon. The minor death of forgotten ex-con who once rode with Poncho Villa on a dual train that has run out of tundra to kill. Rodrigo Lira holds up the Santiago Stadium to the mid-town proms, and we drink Potter's vodka, Valentine, and laugh for the first time in a long way. And it feels really good to be free from the century of rice and machine guns. The bees are dying, Rodrigo. The Amazon is always on fire, and the grin from a child killer whistles to Brazil. 13. Rodrigo, I want to make things right. For Amanda Gorman to spin their urine at a fancy Harvard dinner party in front of her mirror into the mouth of the Illuminati, long tongues last to the ether. For our inaugural poet to look to the crowd like a loon, then back to the president for a bomb of banana. One of those guns with a flag that says, murder century after century, and it's always you with a grin. An ashtray full of skulls and diamonds in the party lit by a riverbank. For a poet to whimper dumbly an Amazonian dandelion from the stall die of a letter and point at the heads of state and laugh. You have killed the beautiful things, stars and angels of all your sounds, but we will bury the centuries. To wish for many things but can't. We aren't actually doppelgangers or medieval knights, neither saints of the flock or wealthy immigrants, exiles from our parents' expectations, or simply unrepentant drug addicts. Rodrigo Lira, if we're gonna be honest, we'll bury even poets, but really more like I'm a couple of morons in a three-piece suit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. It's great to have the mix of longer and shorter works today. Our final reader today is going to be Norma Cole. Norma is a poet, visual artist, and translation. Her most recent book of poetry is Fate News. Other books include Win These Posters and Other Unrelated Prizes Inside, Where Shadows Will, Selected Poems 1988 to 2008, Spinoza in Her Youth, To Be It Music, Essays and Talks, and Actualities, collaboration with painter Marina Adams. I'm also quite fond of this book, Mars, from the mid-90s, which has this amazing two-sided cover by the artist Jess. Her translations from French include Daniel Colobert's It Then, Crosscut Universe, Writing on Writing from France, and Jean Dives' White Decimal. Her visual work has been shown at the Miami University Art Museum, at Second Floor Projects in San Francisco, and the Berkeley Art Museum, and most recently her film By the Turning Bridge at Ariane Press and Naiad. A book of her drawings called Drawings just appeared from Further Other Bookworks. Please welcome Norma Cole.
Thank you so much to Tenaya for inviting me to read with these amazing poets. And thank you to the poets who read today. Amazing. And thanks Anselm and Carolyn and the Rail and the whole team. And thanks for coming. I'm going to read first one poem from Where Shadows Will. It's called The Catastrophe. This is strange tongue in the form of a heart where atoms of color dance, colors of manifestations on the soft ground of conscience. This is an illustrated fish, a little blue fork or prongs as incarnations. This is a bucket of energy, a barred spiral. This sandbar permits the passage of blood with variations, horizontal. Light This light is on a dark blue ground, or a deep red ground, or a midnight green ground. A disc of dancing metal arrows all show. Ruling colors of the spiral, precipitous, terrifying, an ancient treaty. Give up the idea of the state. Can it be said? To whom can it be said? To someone's father or mother? The world, night, demolition of homes, control of water, lack of water, build and destroy, trial, walls of the moat or the room, their design and multiplication, constant dialogue of light and of shade, narrow verticals, rise, all rise, rare and free, or rather free, a little free. An image of redefining is explicit, the point of the arrow, head down, twice the energy, little known and less represented, observed in various visible forms, with clarity, display, evolving, the many, the hung as haptic form, evoking that principle. And now I'm going to read this a little chapter book, Lost Dance, that just came out from the Bert and Beckett Foundation. Lost Dance, last chance, words, people, energies, somewhere in there, that punctuation, recovery, my spoken, moving, never play something else again, still somewhere, and we'll be our own grammar structure, you more so, life to starting with say power, just line up with granted shows for not intentional, taken before enough. Can one structure get not voice, full scapt rush with like local food issue, call to be what, wherever, the night dreams, writing, harbor, wall, bridge, refugees, portraits, palais, exile, barged, history, space, facts, citing history, ground crossing, spiral attraction, stale gratitude, water, curtain, watch, metro, clocks, proposals, sights unseen, onlookers, stories of, on, beyond, of, from, between, of and on, in another racing, slow, lost, run is be told, sold, want, touch, will take, is life's offering, will take, birthday blessing, earth, I, lost, my middle, my today, their last, the final, the last humans, I, my empty in of love with friends. When it, if, like was, saw, were, filled, rising, billowing, blooming, smoke, flames, smoke, hilltops, ridge, sky, inevitable, visible, shimmering, pinks, purples, browns, off, not foregone. It, where, which, from, of, from, and ones which had belonging, track, feeling, carrying the ships, learned something about departed, kept simply, sailed fastest, eternal mail and land. When we have said that it transmit, it is only which movements upon those is placed influences, which the office of the body between object, conductor receives and acts to do them and not arrest them. When important, all problems, anything vary, nothing, money, nothing, no, aren't you able to have was after you do discover no peaceful transport, taking away it we leaves this a city was had warm, had giving alive, bearing time, dangers escaped, bearing shadow fallen, and life again over. And now, did it say they haven't, they keeps you in from little, oh, did you sleeping think, what if her dream up slept, let them in, did wake, as that I tell all, I am new, you too. These which breeze with break first snow, dusk, cloud, brown road, remaining a dense fields of clarity either side on tomorrow of contours, all whole showed just sharply sloped before the curious down the landscape, the wisps, the warm up when at the world ourselves protect we it and world encounter, then new from being it patterns, for look, it comes in and of it, in it, is it, in to, by to, we too, will us by, into, we by we have, live, see, do. This is that, is the, see, we process time, something, and categories so impossible. The is classifying, complete, mutable, chaotic, creating, already, continually, rather not becoming, establishing every being again. I, me, them, that which never could course from feeling remembered, mirror certain landscapes, remembered, transformed, of carry, of nature with paint, and become pattern, fraction, heart, of in, of to, of and that the beautiful, irrational, they are They have pure number, leaping rhythm, continued arithmetic pulse, even the sense steps beat. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma. And thank you, Tenaya, Kamelya, Mohammed, and Vlad. Thanks everybody for being here. And also I want to give a shout out to Raven, Eleanor, Chloe, Nick, and Carolyn who make all of this happen in and around the cubes. Maybe now we can turn off the mics or turn on the mics for a second, turn off the unmutes and let everybody say hello and goodbye as we go off into the day.
Thank you all. That was
Thank you
incredible.
all.
So thank you
Thank
guys
you.
so much.
Thanks. It was
Thank
very
you.
lovely.
Fucking amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wow.
Thank you for everyone for being here.
Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Mo. Thanks. So
Thank
good.
you. Thank you,
That was
everybody.
amazing.
You guys were awesome. Thank you all. Thanks tonight.
Thanks, everyone. It's
Thanks.
great.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
a lot,
you.
everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.